Hi all, Gavin Greenfield here, emergency physician, STARS transport physician, and the STARS medical director of education. I'm here to look at flow rates amongst these different devices. We've got the O2 SmartBag MO, we've got the Ambu Spur 2, and we've got the Care Medical CS100. Three different BVMs, and what we're going to do is check flow rates. So this is a machine. You can see right now I've got 15 liters dialed in at the wall, and through the machine it's reading roughly the same. So you can see kind of 15.6 liters. What happens is the flow comes in here, comes into this port right there, and exits out the back through that port right there, and as it's going through, the machine measures the flow. So let's hook up these devices and see what 15 liters at the wall translates to at the patient. I've got some help here. I've got, hi Kelsey, hi Gabby, and hi Tristan. So Kelsey, I'll pass you the camera, and let's hook up first of all the SmartBag. And by the way, all three of these have a PEEP valve dialed in at 10 centimeters of water. PEEP valve doesn't affect these flow rates, but they, just for consistency, they're all at 10 centimeters of water. So we'll let this SmartBag fill up the reservoir bag. And once we get into a steady state with the reservoir bag, which I think we are now, Kelsey, if you can zoom in on that number right there, you'll see there is no flow at the patient. Zero flow getting by this valve right here with this particular BVM. So let's do the same thing. We'll move on and try the Ambu Spur 2. So same flow at the wall, same 15 liters at the wall, and we'll let that reservoir bag fill up, and we're going to get to approximately 6.4 liters at the wall. 6.4 liters at the patient, 15 liters at the wall. So let's swap out, and we'll do the same thing with the CS100 device. We'll let that reservoir bag fill up, and we'll see that this particular device gets us to a little over 10 liters per minute at the patient. Okay, perfect. 10.1. Okay, let's do the same thing, but we're going to add in our circuit. So in the days of COVID-19, we're conscious of our circuit. This is our circuit at STARS. So this is at the mask. So there's an elbow at the mask, there's a viral/HME filter, an end-tidal CO2 detector, and then corrugated tubing. So we're going to put this elbow at the mask, effectively here, and then we're going to hook up each of these devices in turn and measure their flow rates. Now we know what this one's going to be. This was 0 with no resistance, so it's certainly still going to be 0 with this added resistance of this circuit. But if we can zoom in there, Kelsey, we'll see again it's still 0 with this particular device. Now we're going to move on and do the Ambu Spur 2 with the circuit in place. And we'll let the reservoir bag fill up. Remember, with no circuit, this was 6.4 at the patient. And with the circuit, it's down to 3.4 liters per minute at the patient. Okay, and finally, we will test our CS100 device. We'll let the reservoir bag fill up, and this is going to be just over 8, so about 8.1 liters per minute at the patient with the circuit in place. Now we're going to make one modification to this circuit. This is the circuit we use, or the filter we use at STARS right there. But there are filters with potentially some less resistance. So we're going to swap out. A different filter. Still going to have the end tidal, and the circuit's otherwise going to look the same, but we're going to take out that STARS circuit. So now we've got that same circuit. Kelsey, if you wouldn't mind zooming in on this. Again, we've got the elbow at the mask. We've got the presumably less resistance viral/HME filter, end-tidal CO2, and corrugated tubing. So I'm not even going to bother. Well, I'm not even going to bother with this. We know it's going to be 0, this device, because it was 0 with 0 resistance. So let's move on and check the Ambu Spur 2. Okay, and with our corrugated tubing, there we go, our circuit is in place. And so a little less resistance. So recall this was 6.4 with no circuit. It was 3.4 at the patient with that viral filter. With this viral filter, it's a little more. It's 4.5 liters per minute at the patient. Okay, so let's check the CS100 next. And it is at 8.4 liters per minute. Okay, perfect. So it was 8.1 liters per minute with that filter, a little less resistance with this. Okay, so Kelsey, if today there's a lot of talk about Apneic CPAP, so we are trying to oxygenate these patients ideally without having to squeeze the bag. If we can oxygenate them with Apneic CPAP, it's probably safer for the people caring for the patient. For a great video on Apneic CPAP, just head over to George at aimairway.ca and he'll show you how that works. So I'm not convinced that these flow rates that we've just measured are necessarily going to be enough to do this. So of course the other thing we do is we add nasal prongs underneath the mask, or we add in like a T connector and directly entrain oxygen from a second port. But remember, this was at 15 liters, so let's just see what happens when we crank this. So we know that this number ends at 15, but the capacity to deliver oxygen from behind the wall here is much greater than 15, and actually we've measured this and it's 100 liters in our particular meter here. We can get up to 100 liters per minute of flow. So we're going to crank that all the way up to 100 liters per minute, and then we're going to measure our flow rates through the circuit. So you can hear that flow, lots of flow. I'm going to leave this circuit intact with the filter that has slightly less resistance, and we're back to our smart bag. And let's see what kind of flow rates we get now. So this is at 100 liters per minute. The flow rates, just going to straighten out this corrugated tubing a little bit. Like 4 liters per minute at the patient. Okay? That's what this valve right here is allowing past at 100 liters at the wall. Okay? So let's try the Ambu Spur 2 next. So 100 liters at the wall corresponds to about 27.8 liters at the patient. And finally, the CS100 device, 100 liters at the wall, 32.5 liters at the patient. Okay, so I'm just going to turn this off. And Kelsey, if you wouldn't mind focusing on the data we've just collected. So you can see that the amount of flow you get at the patient when they are not breathing and you're not squeezing the bag is highly variable. Of course, all these numbers will be higher if the patient initiates a breath themselves or if you squeeze the bag. But what we're trying to determine here is how much flow we're going to get in the setting of when the patient's apneic and we're not squeezing the bag. And so you can see that O2 smart bag, there is no flow, and even at 100 liters, it's minimal flow at the patient. The Ambu Spur 2 with no circuit had 6.4 liters at the patient. The CS100 had more, 10.1 liters at the patient. This is with 15 liters no circuit. We're of course, in the days of COVID-19, we're using a circuit. And so these numbers are slightly different because we swapped out the viral filter. But let's just focus on what I'm referring to as the hospital circuit for now. So at 15 liters, we've got 4.5 with that device and 8.4 with the CS100. In order to get up to higher flows, we needed to get up to 100 liters at the wall. And that's when we get up into these flow rates. So I think this is just important to understand what device you guys are using wherever you're working, and then you can make some informed decisions about how best to do the apneic CPAP. Thanks very much. Take care.